Hello and welcome to They've Been Doing It All Day, Sir. I'm Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And we're two Englishmen navigating a variety of sports Australia has to offer.
Brookie Oval regulars getting to grips with the NRL, life in a new country, and following any major sporting events coming up over the next couple of years. Join us on our adventures in the 2025 season, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. How's your week been, lad?
Yeah, not too bad. What about yourself? I know we had our Rebels Awards evening on Saturday night, which I thought went quite well. How do you think it went?
Yeah, it was a good night. Great to see loads of the lads, loads of the Colts there as well. So that's always good for club development. I was down in the Gong the next day for a flag American football tournament. So not too many beers for me. So I had to be a little bit more careful than I probably would have been.
Yeah, I can't say the same. Had a fair few beers. You mentioned there about being a coach for American football flag. What's the role? What are you doing?
I'm the defensive coordinator for the New South Wales State flag women's team. Been coaching for about 5 or 6 years, and been coaching in Australia as soon as I landed. So had the opportunity to coach the state flag team this year, and couldn't have accepted it quick enough. So yeah, the team are developing very well. We've got some fantastic talent across from all different sports within Australia. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they go at the national tournament in March.
Yeah, and I think with flag American football becoming an Olympic sport, so LA 2028, and then hopefully again in 2032 in Brisbane, there's been a real emphasis by Gridiron Australia to recruit talent from many different sports. And I was fortunate enough to come with you to do one of those talent ID sessions out in Bankstown. When was that? A few weeks ago. And there were some phenomenal athletes there.
Yeah.
There were some women there that were so impressive with the skills that were on display that you're like, wow, the state has so much talent. So
yeah, and that's one of the things that I'll quite happily say is that the Australian team are going to be selecting soon, and I very much said to the girls I didn't want to sort of inflate egos, but I very much believe it that I don't think they really need to look out of the talent we have training at the moment for national selection, to be honest.
How did the tournament go down in Wollongong?
Really well. Played against mixed teams, so it's always a little bit difficult, especially when you're coming up with teams who've got wide receivers who are men 6'6" and can just are twice the height of some of the girls that we have on our team. Defensively, they did really well. A lot of pass breakups. One of the good things that I very much liked to see was they got a little bit more aggressive with their pass breakups and stuff. They weren't afraid to throw themselves into a bit of contact, which I know is illegal within the sport, but it's good to see that have been sort of stepped up. But no, really good offense. We're clicking nicely as well, which is a major thing. You can only stop them so many times, but if your offense starts clicking, then that's where you win games.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but building towards the national championship, which is being held in Sydney, in Bankstown.
Yep.
In April sometime?
Yeah, 9th and 10th of March.
Sorry. Yeah, because that's right. It's the day after Manly's opening game against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So that'll be an interesting one. Anything else happened this week? Your end? Anything exciting?
Was in Melbourne for work, which is always good. Very much a fan of Melbourne. Don't think I could live there, but very much a fan of visiting.
I've not spent much time there. It's one of the cities that I've probably gone to once or twice for work, not really had time to explore or do anything. But I know British and Irish Lions were there for a weekend, which would be good to get out and about, see the site, see the inside of some bars, and see, the MCG as well, to go and watch a game of 100,000 people there. So looking forward to that one. Well,
the NFL is going to be there next year as well, so that's going to be a good day out. I have to purchase tickets.
There was rumours that the Super Bowl champions Philadelphia Eagles were going to be making an appearance, but I think that got squashed quite quickly when it's the LA Rams have been confirmed. But the second team, it makes sense for the Eagles to come out because of Jordan Mailata, but we'll wait and see what that fixture is, but we'll definitely try and go. I think it's one of those ones that's got to be on the list. Let's kick things off then with, like we did last week, let's recap on how both Birmingham and Chelsea went in the footballing world. Now, FA Cup, a few giant killings out there, but Birmingham were up against Newcastle, weren't they?
They were. Birmingham have had three games, since we last spoke. So we're into the semi-finals of the Virtues Trophy, which is the football league trophy, which is the tournament for League One and League Two teams. So big game against Bradford on Wednesday morning. Then we played Newcastle, which I'll touch on in a minute, and then we played Cambridge on yesterday morning and beat them 4-0. So
in the league,
yeah.
So am I correct in saying they're 9 points clear at the top?
7.
Sorry, 7.
7, yeah.
Fair play.
And with a game in hand as well. So
cool, looking tasty.
And it's so funny reading all the comments. Oh, you spent so much money. But when you dive into it, I think we had a net spend of about 12-13 million. We had 17 players come in and 17 players go out. So some great management by the board and the backroom staff to be able to keep us within budget, I suppose. And
the development of the team, I think, is something that showed, especially coming up against high-quality opposition.
Yeah. I think when you look at it from a neutral, I think it's one of those games that what the FA Cup is all about. Screamers, goals early on, flying in with tackles, scrapping, crowds going absolutely mental on a cold Saturday evening. No, it was a really good game. I watched it. I didn't watch it live. I watched it back, and all of my mates that I've spoken to about it it was such a good game. The atmosphere was incredible. We went toe to toe with Newcastle, who had some very good players within that team. Callum Wilson is no joke of a player. Nick Pope as well, like England's backup for so many years. He pulled off some really good saves, and is what it is, I suppose, when it comes to that. Couldn't get it over the line. Talking about getting it over the line, the Newcastle had quite a controversial goal, but goal line technology isn't in the FA Cup lower rounds. But their first goal, I think it was, the linesman gave it when he was about 30 foot away. Up there, he said he was in line, but you see the stills, he was nowhere near in line. So how he gave it, I do not know.
There's been a few controversial calls actually, and this is one thing I thought was how much now people rely on VAR. So there was an uproar about it, saying, it's ruining the game, it's ruining this, like millimetres offside. But when Harry Maguire's winner for United against Leicester is a prime example of it, that he was offside and scored. Now he's knocked Leicester out of the FA Cup, and people are saying, well, he's offside. It's like, well, VAR's not involved, but you complain about it. It's a double-edged sword. So I think it's definitely in a game for a positive. Like, granted, it's not great, but I think it should be in all competitions to make it fair. I understand how it can't be in lower league stadiums because of the technology, but there's got to be a way that...
Well, this goes back to what we sort of touched on last week about how the TMOs work so well in rugby union, and I don't understand why they've got a bloke or a ref who is miles away at Stanley Park on doing the video referee and VAR. I don't know why they just don't have a referee in the stadium. And during FA Cup rounds, during Carabao Cup rounds, you can just send a third official, fourth official to every game. Like, it's not that hard. You can have it throughout. So it's either got to be in or got to be out. Like, you can't halfway through a tournament introduce it, because there's going to be teams there that have got there probably because it hasn't been within the tournament. So it's either you use it all the way through or you just don't use it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Going back to Birmingham, massively unlucky, but great performance. Great to be out.
Yeah.
I could talk about Chelsea all day. Absolutely terrible. Out of the FA Cup. I think I saw a stat that this is 8 years or something is going to be without a domestic trophy, because we're not going to win the league. We've fallen off in that. We're just terrible at the moment. Funnily enough, we got knocked out by Brighton 2-1. Got them again in the Premier League this weekend. Nicholas Jackson, probably the worst striker in the Premier League, is out injured. Hooray. And Cuckoo comes in now for Saturday. It'll be interesting to see how he does up front. Palmer seems to have stalled a little bit. So, I mean, look, dire straits for Chelsea at the moment. It's not looking good, but we'll see how it goes.
Be funny if Blues finish the season with more trophies than Chelsea, which is something that you wouldn't normally have put down. But
not at all. But one of the biggest shocks of the round, and got to get this one in for them, Plymouth Argyle.
Yeah.
Knocking out current European, or the team that are currently the best team in Europe, according to the UEFA Champions League
massively
table. They've just knocked them out of the FA Cup, which unbelievable. I watched the highlights of this. I watched the extended highlights of this. They held on and held on and held on for so long. And even at the end, their goalkeeper pulled off 2 fantastic saves. And one of them was from Kelleher, who's up there nodding one towards the goal. So fair play to them. Absolute scenes from Plymouth.
Magic of the FA Cup.
Giant killing, but I think it's rattled Slot. I think he's okay. I don't know. He's feeling a bit of pressure now that he's been knocked out of a competition. Things aren't going as swimmingly.
Yeah.
And this morning, Liverpool played Everton, ended in a 2-2 draw.
The scenes.
Absolutely.
The scenes.
Tarkowski sticks it in the top corner, 98th minute. And then, who was it? Decore, maybe?
Yeah, he after full time went like sliding in front of the Liverpool fans. I absolutely love that. Absolutely love that. It reminds me of when Blues played Villa. God, 09-10 season, I think it was. The whole sort of stand had been given Stephen Carr a whole like dogs of abuse the whole game, and at the end of full time he just turned around and gave him the wanker sign. Like it's etched in Derby history. Like that's what I absolutely love about a Derby is when you see scenes like that. You should be able to like celebrate in front of the Everton fans. Like it's what it's all about. Like get them rattled. It's part of the experience.
Liverpool are the sort of team that will happily rattle everyone else. Will happily turn over a team or be a bit arrogant, flamboyant, get a last-minute winner or whatever and go celebrate. As soon as it happens to them, it's a completely different story. Yeah. You have Virgil van Dijk coming out after the game saying this was Everton's cup final, all that sort of stuff. Slot got sent off for his reaction, which I thought was interesting again to show that build-up of pressure. But I don't know. Liverpool just seem to be one of those teams that when it happens to them, it's always someone else's fault. Yeah. But another team that have seemed to have a big downfall. Manchester City, they were very lucky to get through against Leyton Orient. Went 1-0 down.
Absolute screamer from the halfway line.
Do you know what? I didn't see it, but I saw a picture of whoever the goalkeeper was. It wasn't Edison, it was their backup goalkeeper, but just like backing up towards the goal line and is never getting there. It's like fair play. But Kevin De Bruyne was on the field. It's Leyton Orient probably have a budget that's less than his monthly salary. So.
I've got a lot of time for Leyton Orient as well because I used to work for him, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for him. Spent a lot of time down Brisbane Road watching a few games and stuff like that through work. So managed to play on the pitch a couple of times as well. And one of the things about Leyton Orient is towards the opposite end where the screamer was scored, there's such a drop in the field. Like honestly, it's like you're looking up a good 10, 15 metres sort of thing. And it's like the slant at Lords. So when I was playing in goal there, I went down to that end and I was like, Jesus, like I can barely see the other side of the field here, which is all quite funny.
They say something similar about either Old Trafford or St James's Park. I can't remember which one it is, but like the centre circle is miles above the rest of the field and it slopes off so hard. And it's stuff like that you don't get to see on TV.
Nah, and when you experience it, it's quite. But when you think about it, why are grounds like this? Like they're at such a high level. Surely you shouldn't be playing on pitches that you'd normally have in a park, and you should be able to level it out a little bit. But I suppose it's the history and like Lords. It's what everyone talks about is a slope at Lords. So why get rid of it?
But the magic of the FA Cup.
Yep.
A few big teams knocked out. A few teams have scraped through. Controversial decisions. And that's why it's probably one of the greatest football tournaments, I think,
100%
on the planet. And the fact that anyone from any division could, in theory, win the tournament, I think just makes it super special. So it'd be interesting to see how the next round goes.
So talking about sort of cup competitions, at the moment, we talked about it last week. The Six Nations is still alive and kicking.
It is.
Let's go to Murrayfield. And talk about that Ireland-Scotland game first. What were your thoughts around it?
Didn't watch this one live. Watched the extended highlights on YouTube, I think it was. I watched them on. I thought, from what I saw, that Scotland did all right. I thought that they were fairly... It was a fairly tight contest for a while. And then all of a sudden, Ireland just turned up again. Kind of what they did against England. It seems like they found a second gear, third gear, whatever it needed to be. But was it Van der Merwe that scored an absolute
unreal NRL sort of esque try in the corner.
Yeah, it was incredible. Like, it looked like his knee was going to go down, but he managed to get the ball down. I thought that was unreal. Absolutely great play. But I don't know, you could just tell Ireland had something else, and Prendergast was slotting everything.
So good.
And so creative as well, that he really made a difference for them. But again, Ireland's pack is just monumental.
Yeah.
They're enormous. Their front row's probably the best front row. I think if you had to pick a front row for the Lions at the moment, it's probably all three of them.
Good majority of the pack are coming from Ireland, to be honest.
Yeah, but I mean, Ireland got the win. Still the only team on for the Grand Slam. Yeah. Scotland are unlucky. I think it's Scotland-England up next, so it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. But what were your thoughts on it?
Exact same, to be honest. Like, it's one of those, I think we'll touch on it in a minute, but the start of that game when Scotland went 17-0 down within the first 30 minutes, I think that's very much how England-France could have ended up, which we'll talk about in a moment. But that Irish just consistency with everything, like the speed from the breakdown, and like you said, Prendergast, like he just marshaled the team like a 80 cap veteran. He does remind me a little bit of Johnny Sexton, like that sort of lanky. He doesn't have
There's
a lot
not much to him.
He looks like a colt for the first time that's been called up to the men's. That's what he looks like. But his patience, his calm around everything, and just how he just, as I said, marshals everything. He just does so well. I was so impressed by him.
I think it was him, if I remember rightly, that whipped a ball like off the left hand, 20 metres out, almost from the middle of the field all the way to the sideline. It's like, how's he just done that so calmly? Looped it over, up and over, down the wing, try, or maybe cut back inside and then try, but still, it's just phenomenal.
I think Ireland have found their next 10 for a long period of time. He's incredible, and I think James Lowe has definitely confirmed his spot on one of the wings for the Lions. He's, for someone who you wouldn't expect, he just trucks everyone. Like he just doesn't care. He will get the ball and he will run through people.
Naturally, he's from New Zealand. So.
Well, yeah. That's another podcast in itself, talking about South Africans and Kiwis and Australians who play in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
But to be fair to Scotland, losing your 10 and one of your wingers in the first 20 minutes to head knocks is difficult. And Finn Russell is such a talent as well at 10. Missing him is going to be is going to be huge, and it's going to impact their sort of attacking play. One of the things that really impressed me about Ireland as well was their defensive work on sort of counter breaks and stuff like that. When the game is a little bit more scattered, they were able to regiment themselves and get themselves organised quite well, which is such a difficult thing to do when the ball is flying about all over the place. They were so strong in defence and that side of things. Do you know where France-Ireland is, where that game's being played? Because that's, again, Ireland win that, they're winning the Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Can't see them losing to either Wales or Italy. So if they do end up winning that, I think it's a well-deserved Grand Slam.
It's in Dublin.
Well, there we go. I'd put money on Ireland very comfortably getting the Grand Slam this year.
I don't think it's the last game of the tournament. It might be. Hang on, we could check that. But yeah, it will be. That's the Grand Slam on the line. But then again, if France do win that, I then think England do stand a very good chance, depending on how it goes against Scotland. But like you said, with the injuries, players that they got missing.
Yeah.
But I think they showed a gutsy performance. They would, like you said, they went down quite early, but they got back into the game. Yeah. And I thought to a point where Ireland were nervy, but then the experience sets in.
The class.
Yeah, and it was 3, I think, fairly scrappy mistakes that put Scotland where they were. But then to get back into it and then get blown away at the end, it just shows the quality of Ireland.
They've got so much experience within their backs as well, with sort of Bundyaki and Henshaw. Like that, they're two centres who, if I was lining up at 12 and opposite Bundyaki, I'd be like, I am not looking forward to this day at all. He's such a strong runner, and I'd be surprised if he's not wearing red come July.
I think he
at
will
some
be.
point. But no, it was a very good game from Ireland, and it'd be interesting to see how they play, how England Scotland next week's going to be, but it's at Twickenham again. Haven't beaten Scotland, I think, in 5 years or something like that.
4 years. I read this earlier.
Okay.
It's 4, yeah.
Yeah. So the Calcutta Cup is up for grabs.
Well, interesting you say that, because it's a topic of conversation we're going to have about Wales in a second, but there was something that I saw about England haven't beaten a tier 1 nation in the last, apart from France, obviously, in the last 11 tests or something like that.
We beat Ireland last year, so...
Nah, there's a stat that says England have been unsuccessful against tier 1 nations.
Well, yeah, you just look at the autumn internationals, lost to Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. I think England ended up beating
Japan, but not a tier 1 nation.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, I could understand that, to be honest.
Yeah, and that brings us on to the next game, Wales versus Italy.
Just absolute pure domination by the Italian front row. It was a slippery pitch in Rome, and I feel like just the Italians had their footing a lot better than Wales, and just constant scoreboard pressure as well. The penalties that they ended up winning from the scrums, like they were just getting slotted over. I think he's their number 13. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think he's got one of the best kick percentages at the moment within the Six Nations.
He's only missed like three
which he ended up missing in that game. So that could have been another 9 points that Italy could have won that game by. Wales have now sacked Gatland halfway through a tournament. So, or Gatland's left. Either way you look at it, they're in a very poor position at the moment as a nation, a rugby nation, which is such a shame because they just live and breathe rugby to a certain extent. Like it's such a shame to see a nation like that going through this, like sort of drop in form. But yeah, the Italians were just constant.
Do you know what I loved about the stadium? One thing I noticed, like back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, you'd see a fixture like this where, I don't know, maybe Italy wouldn't have had a chance 10, 15 years ago, but you'd watch it and the stadium would be empty. You'd see maybe 2/3 maximum of people there. That game at the weekend, the stadium was full.
Yeah.
And the fans were going mental. And to see Italy back-to-back years not finish bottom, it just shows how over a period of time, more interest has grown in the sport, more people have got involved in the sport. Again, helps that there's a few international people that have miraculously found Italian passports and wanted to play internationally, but that's happening all around the world in all sports at the moment. So, but it brings up the topic of conversation around, should there be a promotion and relegation for...
I think there should be, yeah.
I'm on the fence because I believe Wales are a staple to the Six Nations in the fact that they were there with the original Five Nations. Like you said, it's I think it's Wales' number one sport, potentially, rugby.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that one. But it's a case of the marketability of Wales over a team like Georgia, for example,
is massive.
Does it bring the Six Nations product? Does it decrease the value of the Six Nations product if you've got... But then saying that, you look at Italy, for a number of years they were getting battered and battered and battered, 50 odd this, 40 odd that, and now look what they've become. So would they have been able to develop if Italy would have got relegated? Would they be in the position that they are now if Italy would have got relegated? We'll never know. But I think I'm on the fence.
I think one of the really good things to add would be like a playoff at the end of it. So it'd be last versus first. So you could counter that a little bit with the relegation and sort of the promotion side. But why not? Georgia are playing some good rugby at the moment.
They've got a huge pack as well, I believe.
They always have. Yeah. It's just the fitness side of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then you look at the likes of Portugal as well, who have started to sort of roll into an okay nation.
Spain have just qualified for the World Cup in Australia.
And this is the thing, where do you pull those other nations from? Do you just keep it within Europe, or do you go to the likes of Uruguay, who are always quite a very good, consistent team when it comes to rugby? Argentina are now in the old Tri-Nations. So why not let South America sort of explode a little bit within sort of tier one rugby, as you say? But I think a second division would be really cool to add on to it. I think it would just bring a lot more viewership. I think it would add a little bit more excitement and a little bit more sort of pressure, which would be interesting to see how those teams that are in the lower couple of positions, how they sort of adapt.
We say this though, England, like I mentioned earlier, hadn't been in a tier 1 nation in God knows how long. So could England end up in that second tier? Who knows? But talking of England, vive la France, got the 1-over on them. I can't say I remember much about watching this one because I did watch it. I did stay up and watch it after the Rebels Awards night. So it was a bit hazy whilst watching it. But my memory from it is the fact obviously winning it in the last minute. But we were very, very lucky in the first 20, 25 minutes.
I know it always sounds daft, but it was a France loss over an England win, if you know what I mean. I think one of the things that does come to mind is a cold Wednesday night in Stoke. Did the conditions get to them a little bit? I don't know. But France should have been close to about 21 points up within the first 20 minutes of the game. Like they had open goals in the corners, like 3 or 4 dropped passes in the corners in that first 20 minutes.
Do you know what it reminds me of actually? And Manly in the NRL have been running a series on YouTube, pre-season series called The Manly Way. And one of the things that they recognised last year was that they didn't do too well in moments of chaos. And they were trying to train this year in developing how they react and how they respond when things are chaotic. Not when you're on top, not when you're miles behind, but there's just no structure. I think this week, those moments of chaos went the way of England. You look at, I can't remember which try it was, but Tom Curry knocks the ball backwards. Someone picks it up, offloads it. I think Ollie Lawrence might have scored, palms someone off. And that could have easily been a knock-on any other day of the week. Tom Curry might have got his hand to it, knocked it on. But it's just those moments of chaos England managed to respond well to, whereas I don't think France did.
I think I'd word it as England got away with them more than they reacted. I think England's defence in counter-attacks and chaotic moments is all over the place. Like that's why France had so much room at times, was especially in the counter attacking side of things. Every England player just seemed to stop.
Apart from one, Tom Curry.
He's everywhere, man.
The guy nails everything that moves.
Talent, leading the Six Nations in turnovers at the moment. Even I don't know whether his assist with Ollie Lawrence counted. Ollie Lawrence ended up getting over a ball and Tom Curry comes flying in and double clamps it. So he's an exceptional talent.
Got to be on the plane to Australia.
100%. But then you look at sort of the Irish back row, and you're looking going to Scotland. Is there a starting position for Tom Curry? That's the thing. Is like who does he take?
I suppose
over?
the biggest thing for that is Tom Curry's on the plane. Does he play tests? I think
100%.
Last time he did, and he played all 3 tests. It's just, like you say, that's stiff competition. But going back to England, what are your thoughts in general beyond what you've just said?
Love seeing Marcus Smith at fullback. I think he's incredible back there. When you give that boy time and space, he can
like a different player.
Stuff. He can do stuff, man. Like you just look at the comparison in the 2 games. He got over 131 attacking meters against France, but against Ireland he was restricted to 54. And just look how much more attacking ball England had from those kicking. And I know there's a massive argument. Oh, he's small. Like what happens if get air raided? It's not that hard to interchange between the wingers and the fullback. You've got Freeman there who's played fullback for Northampton. If they're really that worried, he can, in moments where there could be an air raid, he could just slide into fullback, Marcus Smith to the wing and interchange. And then when England are defending in the opposition 22, where you know it's going to be a long kick, let Marcus drop back to 15 and let him run straight back up. Like he was probably a metre or a step away from some serious damage against France, which is exciting to see. And then you look into the comparison of Finn Smith at fly half. He's what you would have as a traditional fly half. Again, very much a general. There was a fantastic view of Elliot Daly's try in the last minute where he's screaming at Daly to get over and move over and move over. And Elliot Daly ends up drifting and then gets the ball.
But doesn't he also sell it with a little pump as well?
This is one thing I massively picked up, was his patience at the gain line is incredible. The delay he puts on passes, he took some big hits because he draws the defender and then pops it off, and it was incredible to watch. There was one where he did to Jamie George, just after Jamie George came on, and he ended up running a fair distance, and then in that final minutes, again, because of that, I think the French defence were a bit unsure what to do. If you watch it back, that the person who makes the tackle arguably could have shifted over one more and trusted the inside, but that's what the talent of Finn Smith gave, was that indecisiveness of, is he going to pass this? Because if I do leave him, he's then got a gap to put his foot down into. But if I stick, then it's that little pop to Elliot Daly. But funnily enough, his conversion nearly got charged down. I don't know whether you saw.
I saw a photo of it. Yeah. I think this morning or yesterday. Fingertips were millimeters from it.
Yeah.
Still a better kicker than Marcus Smith, though.
Yeah, massive. I was looking over Marcus's conversion rates, and he's quite high still. He's in the 70s and 80s with penalties and conversions. Not too sure how that is. But going on to kicking, England were very poor in the exit kicking at times as well. Going back to Finn Smith didn't have the like cleanest of games. He got charged down within the first couple of minutes with one of his kicks, and then who was it? Slade missed a few, didn't kick him out, and there was some poor exit kicking which could have hurt England if France took their chances. Again, the line-outs were all over the place in the first half. They couldn't hold on to a line-out, but Jamie George comes on, does what Jamie George does, and sort of sorted that out and shored things up. Just going back on what we talked about, sort of VAR and TMO last week, I absolutely loved for the Ollie Lawrence try how quick the TMO was. Like the ref had blown the whistle, everything had sort of calmed down. He's then gone straight to his ear and gone, on field is try. Just want to make sure there's no knock on the TMO straight away. And I've already checked it. It's sound. And that's what I love about it, is that the TMO's already on their job checking the whole play before the ref even gets to them, which helps, I think, speed it up.
I think they are in the Premier League. I just think the level of efficiency isn't the right word, actually. The level of decision making they're too indecisive. They're too scared to do something wrong, I feel. Whereas in rugby, they make a decision, they stick by it.
Yeah.
Where I think maybe it's the press, maybe the pressure from fans, I don't know, but in the Premier League, it feels like they're scared to make a decision or scared to make the wrong decision, which is quite often. But atmosphere, unreal when he goes over.
Yeah,
I think it was 5:30 in the morning. I let out a little scream, and it was just to hear the roar, and then obviously you see all the social media after, like from different angles and all that sort of stuff. It just really captures a moment. It's incredible.
But that's what happens when you don't take your chances, and we can sit here and say, our France should have done this, France should have done that. They didn't, and England came to bite them in the arse, I suppose, and it tees up what could be a fantastic sort of next 3 games left in the Six Nations.
There's a weekend off this weekend.
It's next week. Is it next weekend or this weekend?
No, it's this weekend, the weekend off, but then England plays Scotland. And if we win that, with Wales and Italy left, you never know. France could do us a favour against Ireland. You never know what could happen. But I'm sure it will come down to bonus points, mathematics towards the end. Someone will feel like they're robbed, all that sort of stuff. But what a great win for England. Morale booster, hugely. Puts us in a real good position moving forward. But yeah, other sporting events, minor sporting event that happened stateside on Monday. The Super Bowl, did you watch it?
Oh, I did, yeah. Had it on in the background.
Yeah, whilst working.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough, because I'm in between jobs at the moment, to be able to watch it all. Probably one of the most dominant defensive displays I've seen.
Incredible. Like I reckon Patrick Mahomes is walking around his house right now still scared of Philadelphia Eagles D tackle's going to go and fly around the corner.
There was a stat that came up somewhere that was like, the Eagles hadn't sent a blitz in however many quarters of football, yet Mahomes had the least amount of time that he'd had all season. It was something along those lines. And the pressure that front four got were
immaculate. It was shutting him down, so he couldn't go through his reads. The fantastic thing about it is you can see they have camera angles behind the line of scrimmage and what the QB sees, and you just see him panic as soon as the ball snapped. He shuts down, and him and Kelsey were really off as well, which normally is their go-to.
Kelsey's done, I think.
I wouldn't say done. I think he just had a bad game. I think he's. I think that's a bold statement straight off the bat. But what I saw from that very first offensive pass interference in the first quarter when the Eagles were driving, I was like, here we go. Here's the biting into the refs and the refs helping the Chiefs. I was like, this is going to be a long day for the Eagles. But then they sort of equalised it with a PI, which was, I was like, okay. And then, Eagles just dominated.
I'll tell you one of the big plays that sticks out for me, and this is me speaking from an O-line coach perspective. There was a counter that the Chiefs ran. And on a counter, the defensive end is left unblocked and the guard pulls round and is meant to clear them out. I don't know which one of the defensive ends it was, but he walloped the guard so hard that he sat him on his ass and they could not run at all. And it's like, wowzers, they are switched on. They want it. And it was an absolute blowout. Like, it's great to see Jordan Mailata coming off the international player program, someone that 7 years ago never played the sport, being a captain of the team and lifting the Vincent Lombardi trophy. It just shows that there's a market over here for players.
Massively. It's not just here, but internationally as well. Like there's so much hidden talent out there, and with American football being such a business in the US, and there being a proper sort of consistent carousel of players coming out of college and stuff like that, for you to get picked internationally is massive. And it's just great to see sort of Australia being represented in that way. And it was a great game from a defensive player's point of view. It was just fantastic to watch, like how they just shut everything down. And I think Chiefs had planned so much around stopping Saquon Barkley that they forgot about, like, that they've got some threats on the outsides as well. So, but yeah, no, I think all this comparison of Mahomes and Brady needs to stop. And Brady is probably the greatest quarterback of all time.
100%. And he didn't bottle it in a big game as much as Mahomes did.
Well, I read a stat. Every Super Bowl Brady was in, he was always up at halftime or going into the fourth quarter.
I think in the ones that he lost as well, it's something like he only lost by a combined total of 15 points, something along those lines. Mahomes in that one lost by 20, however many points it was.
Well, you then go straight back to the last Super Bowl Mahomes lost against the Bucs. Exact same defense, completely shut Mahomes down. He was trying his best, to be fair, in that game to try and get something going, but as soon as you sort of scare him a little bit, I think he sort of panics and rushes things and can't sort of get that offense ticking.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's hope the Philadelphia Eagles do come over in 2026. I think it'd be great to have Jordan Mailata over here, the things he'll do for the game, and especially with the NFL Academy up in the Gold Coast as well. I think it will just boost the profile of the sport. And really, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of athletes coming from this Asia Pacific region, some big old boys around the country. So, yeah, keep an eye out for them. England cricket.
Very much what I said last week.
It's exactly the same. We've moved from the T20 series to the one-day series. England have been whitewashed. Just, I don't know. I sit and watch the first innings and I see Salt and Duckett going well, like sticking on 85 for one, 87 for one, and then all of a sudden I go to bed, wake up, and we've been bowled up 250 something. I'm like, what the hell has happened? And
it was just quite funny that the point I made about the India last T20 score, which was
254,
247, and I said, that's probably what you expect as a subpar ODI score, and in England the next day went out and scored 248. So it was hopefully that wasn't a bit of foreshadowing, but just collapse after collapse when it comes to batting. The England can't bat against spin. They don't know how to attack it, which in India is something that you really need to be strong at. And like you say, Duckett and Salt were always getting decent starts up about especially in ODIs, if you can get past 50 as an opening partnership and kick on, that's a really good start for a team. But just middle order didn't really do anything, and then when it came to bowling, everyone was just getting slapped all over the place. And when you have someone like Mark Wood who's such a pace bowler in ODIs, you just need to get a little flick on that ball and it's gone for a boundary because of the rules with players having to be inside the 30 metres and stuff like that. So I think this looks at the massive glaring problem that England have with spin bowlers, that they don't have, which is quite hard on Rashid Khan though, because he's got Kohli the most amount of times I think in international cricket now, and England don't have a test spinner, which to be able to perform at high standards you really need, and you've got sort of part-timers in Liam Livingstone who's in there more for his aggressive batting than he is bowling.
But didn't Joe Root
bowled as well,
ahead of Livingstone, I think, or ahead of one spin bowler? I don't even know. I can't even remember who it was. That's how disinterested I was in that fixture. But it's unreal.
Well, that goes straight back to the 2021 series, 2020-2021 series in India, where Joe Root was the first string spin bowler, and that's how that doesn't scream alarm bells. I do not know. You've got Joe Root being your first choice go-to when it comes to spin. I'm sure he opened the bowling at one point as well, which is mad. But yeah, there's issues there. You got the Champions Trophy just around the corner, and
it's in Pakistan, isn't it?
Yeah. But as you said, it's in Pakistan where they tend to do roads. So this could be a very high scoring ODI.
Chasing down high scores. Pakistan chased down 352 against South Africa, which I think sets us up nicely for a good Champions Trophy tournament, in the fact that South Africa are usually very strong in their bowling attack, but they've just been slapped around in Pakistan. So it could be really interesting to see how that goes. And then Sri Lanka beating Australia as well.
I think, just to quickly go back, I think that's been an interesting little tournament that's been going on between Pakistan, South Africa and New Zealand, because I think New Zealand have beaten Pakistan and South Africa, and then Pakistan have beaten South Africa. So it's been quite interesting to see how the teams have done there. But after the highs of the, would you call it highs of the test matches? I suppose it gets wins, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It can take you 3 days to score 400, but if there's a W in the column, there's a W in the column. But then to come into the more entertaining sides of cricket and to lose straight away,
it's quite. I mean, Australia have lost quite a lot of people. They've lost. I think Stark has just decided not to take part. He's removed himself from the Champions Trophy squad.
He's played a lot of cricket though.
He has, but they haven't announced the reasons as to why it is, and they were like, "Oh, we respect his decision."
I saw Alyssa Healy on a podcast go, I don't know, I haven't spoken to him about it, which was a very diplomatic answer.
Interesting. But they've lost Cummins to injury, Hazelwood to injury, Mitch Marsh to injury, and Stoinis has decided to retire from the one-day game. I think we're in the midst of seeing a change in Australian cricket. I think they're all going to hold on. Stoinis doesn't make the test team, but I think they're all going to hold on for the Ashes. And then I think we're going to see them lot retire from test cricket as well. And it's who's up next. And I think there's a dispute going on at the moment about one of their spin bowlers, Kuhneman, who's apparently tossing it down the wicket, throwing it down there. So he's under investigation. But it'll be interesting to see which direction Australia go and who's next up. And
it's quite interesting that they didn't bring Consus out for this ODIs and the champ because he's a very attacking batsman, as we discussed. Travis Head wasn't in this ODI, which screams Travis Head to play.
I think in the New South Wales Cup the other day, Consus made 2 off 33 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, that could be wrong. That could be factually incorrect.
Yeah, I've got my opinion about Consus. I think he had a very one good innings, and it's blown up about him. I think there's a lot of time for the boy to develop.
Yeah.
I think he just all needs to settle down a little bit. But to see someone ramp Jasprit Bumrah, fair play to the lad, but he's not God's gift just yet.
Here's one for you. So we were in the stands watching that, and we were discussing whether you could catch the ball at wicketkeeper off of a Jasprit Bumrah fast ball. And you said you would easily be able to do it.
Yeah, I'll back myself.
You back yourself. So do you reckon you could even take like an edge If someone edged one, do you reckon you got the quick enough reactions to do that?
I'd back myself because I'd be on the boundary. I know how fast he's bowling. Like as I said, as a wicket keeper, like when I got back into it, I was okay. I was an all right wicket keeper. I just couldn't bat to save my life. Absolutely fell to pieces when I used to go out the bat. Legs went to jelly. Ball looked a bit like a ball bearing. Like I fell to pieces. Whereas wicket keeping, trust me, our reactions, I was all right.
Sounds familiar to one of my mates back home. Said that he could win I think it was a point off Roger Federer or something like that. But
then that's the next thing is something that we then went on to discuss was if you could, and I went no because I'm shit at tennis. Like I'm very much aware of my sporting ability. I'm not going to blow something up like I could. And then we went with that Premier League. Could you score 10 goals in a Premier League season? And if
you're up front for Man City, no, I don't think you could.
So there's something. I'm very much aware of what I'd be all right at. Just a bit of luck. But just going back to Australia's ODI team, they've got Smith and Labuschagne in that middle order. Who
Labuschagne's on thin ice,
very very thin ice. I think he's got one Ashes test to prove himself. If not, I think he's getting dropped. He's not had a big score in a while. But anyway, back to the, as I said, the ODIs. You've got Smith and Labuschagne yesterday at 4 and 5. Absolutely snorefest in that middle order. Like when you're looking to get attacking, like you don't want Steve Smith coming in. Like he can bat, the boy can bat, but to get attacking, you don't want him strolling in. And he ended up scoring 12 off 17, which and then Labuschagne just proves the point I'm saying. He scored 15 off 27. Like that's not what you need when you're trying to chase down a score.
Well, interestingly, England play Australia first in the Champions Trophy game. I think it's Saturday. so
that could go anyway.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, Saturday the 22nd of Feb. So not too far away. We'll share our thoughts and opinions about how that one goes. But by the sounds of it, it's going to be a terrible matchup. But so Champions Trophy looks like it's set up to be a good one. Personally, I think India favourites. Yeah. In Pakistan, maybe Pakistan.
I think I quite like Sri Lanka as dark horses.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be my little take.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Interesting one coming up. But we also saw the start of the NRL preseason this weekend. Now, for those listeners that don't know much about the NRL preseason, they try to incentivize attacking play within the preseason challenge, they call it. And they give a certain amount of points for tries, for line breaks, for attacking plays. But they also offer a $100,000 reward for the winner of the preseason challenge as well. What's your thoughts on preseason fixtures and link it back to kind of Birmingham?
Oh, God. It's quite embarrassing back at football because back in the UK because you end up going to play a League Two team and you lose 1-0. And it's just like you've got fans having a complete meltdown and you've got fans going, it's just pre-season friendly. So it all depends on how you see a pre-season friendly. If you go in with a mentality of we should be winning these, then you are going to get very disappointed and you're not going to see the level that is going to be expected within the season. But if you go in with the mentality of that the players just need to get minutes in their legs, it's a great time to try out different formations, set pieces. It's there to make mistakes and there not to be any consequences. I quite like the idea of the pre-season challenge. Manly won it 2 years ago, and we thought Manly were going to stroll to the final and ended up crashing out.
Didn't even make the 8.
Nah, I think finished 12th.
Something like that, yeah.
But it adds a little bit more spice to it, I suppose. But now with the games in Vegas, it sort of takes away from it, and there's teams that have to get out to Vegas and prepare.
It's all feels a bit disjointed, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's good to get it back on the telly, but like you look at Manly Rabbitohs at the weekend. Manly have got quite what you'd say is very strong, especially in the pack. Quite a strong team to go into this preseason friendly. But then when you looked at the Sharks and the Warriors, it was very much fringe players. So it's I suppose it all depends how you see it as a fan. Like I don't know what you think.
My concern is injuries. Now, preseason, obviously, people need minutes in their legs. They need to get used to contact. They need to get used to playing with the people around them. And like as you see with Premier League teams, English football teams, the first few games, no stars will play. There will be no big names, but that's changed slightly with these big tours of going to the US, China, different countries. But it's usually the last couple of games before the season that the players come out and they play 45 minutes and they'll try things here and there. But this first game of the preseason, Warriors versus Sharks, ended up in a 12-12 draw. The Warriors winger Zelezniak broke his wrist. I think he's out for 8 to 12 weeks, which is amazing. Like I think it happened 16 minutes. If you watch it, he actually gets pushed off the field, and I think he lands on a harder AstroTurf bit, hand out, and like breaks his wrist. Immediately says, "I think I've broken my wrist." Manny played the Warriors second round of the season, so I'm not going to complain about it. But he's out for a while. They've only got 2 games to get ready before they go to Vegas. It's a week earlier, like you mentioned, so they're maybe 1 week ahead of where they should be. And to me, it just feels like a bit, disjointed. Putting on a competition maybe for fans to try and get them interested, teams to maybe incentivize, win a bit of money, but injuries are my big concern.
But saying that, like, he's such an attacking threat as well. He scored 52 tries in 69 appearances for the Warriors. Like that's incredible for an NRL team. Like pretty much, like not too far away from a try every game. And then you go back to the point of it's just trying to put something on for the fans. I looked at tickets for the Manly Panthers game at Leichhardt Oval. I was like, this will be good to go to, what, $20, $30 max. It was $49 for a general admission ticket. And I was like, I'm not paying that to see the B team. It's like that. I don't think they've marketed it well and ticketed it well, because I love going to Leichhardt Oval. It's got that old feel to it. It's a brilliant stadium to go to, but I'm not paying $50 to see a pre-season friendly. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it'll be good to see what happens with the pre-season trophy. Players get minutes in their legs, but I just hope we don't lose any the big names. I know they're not playing. I know Trebojevic aren't playing. Keep him well away.
Yeah, but some of the newer guys coming in that have got to prove themselves. Let's hope that they stay fit and healthy. One of the things that's been mentioned a few times recently and was floated by, I believe, the CEO of the Bulldogs, was putting names on the back of jerseys, which is something that doesn't happen in rugby league over here. I think it's a great opportunity for fans to get more involved, for monetization of certain players' jerseys. It does have its certain risks, but it's all I've ever known, names on the backs of jerseys. Yeah,
but that's the thing when it comes to a sport that doesn't have squad numbers, I suppose. Like, but then you can flip it straight back onto rugby union back home. They're 1 to 15. They don't have squad numbers. The replacement jerseys stay nameless, but then the 1 to 15 will have their name on the back of the jersey. So you can have 3 or 4 sets of jerseys ready to go who you think is going to play in that position. So you can have Turbo at 1, Hopawate at 1, Kalua at 1. Like, you can have a set of 4 or 5 jerseys ready to go. I think it's fantastic, and the clubs can make so much money. I know it's probably the last thing you really want to hear, but there is such a monetization side of it, because kids are going to want to go in and get, if they can get one Trebojevic printed on their jerseys, they will go and get it done. When I grown up as a kid, always had my own name and a number on the back of the jerseys. Saying that, I had it up till about 5-6 years ago. So I'm always a fan of getting like the league patches on the jersey and on the Blues jersey and stuff like that. So that little bit of personalisation, I think they should, because they have it in the state of origin. So why not bring it into the league?
Yeah, I agree. And I was listening to the Buy Round, James Graham's The Buy Round podcast earlier, and he had the CEO of the NRL, Andrew Abdo, on, and they were talking about something that they're going to look into. But one of the things that they mentioned, which we actually spoke about a couple of weeks ago, was the accessibility of the players, like how interactive they are with fans, and how much like fans can really get to know these people and meet them at meet and greets and stuff like that. I think this adds to it. I think having names on the backs of the jersey really has that buy-in of like community, because those players will go down. All right, there might be some that don't have names on the back that they see in the crowd, but they really be able to see how much they're wanted by the fans. To give you an example, a couple of weeks ago, I took my eldest son down to Manly. They had an open come and try rugby league day. Every single player was there. Every single player was there. We went on the pitch. They did all these activities. They did passing, kicking, running through bags. It was probably one of the best fan community days that I've been to. And to be up close and personal with the players like that is something that we wouldn't have experienced in the UK. I mean, when I was younger, I went to Stamford Bridge and went on the pitch, but there wasn't the first team squad there. And imagine if those kids were running around with their names on the back, like how good that would be. But it was reflected by the CEO of the NRL, the fact that how accessible fans are, something we touched on. So maybe we're revolutionary. I don't know.
I think we are. Completely agree with that. But then that goes back to the point of how accessible sport is to a certain extent over here. Like I don't know what it is for kids to go and play rugby or cricket or football. Is there costs involved in it? Is it expensive? How have you sort of found that compared to what it could be back in the UK?
Not having kids in the UK was obviously I can't make a comparison between the costs there, but to me, it's not that expensive. For example, this Friday and for the next 4 weeks, we've got a come and try cricket. So it's Woolworths have teamed up with KFC, who are the sponsor of the Big Bash. And I think it's like the Big Cricket Trial or something like that. It's $55 for 4 weeks. And my son's got like a little ball, a hat, a tote bag, all branded. And it's just to get them into the sport. That Manly Day was actually free. It was a free come and try day. So that was incredible. And then you can go off and register. I think a football season is $225, which is quite pricey for an under 6 age group. But still, it's very reachable. Like you can get grants from the government as well, vouchers that can go towards stuff like that to ensure that your kids are being active. But I'm certainly noticing the fees piling up in terms of cost for children to go and do things. But the fact that there's trials on for a couple of weeks that don't cost that much, just to get kids involved in a wide variety of sports, I think they do give you opportunities to make it accessible for all.
Yeah, and there's so much opportunity as well. Like you can see it everywhere. Like pretty much all the sports clubs that I've played for here have some sort of Colts or juniors set up, which is brilliant to see. To see that's the most important thing is having the access and having the accessibility to be able to play these sports with sort of as you said there, rising costs and stuff like that. As long as kids aren't affected by it, I think that really does help. And just those fun days, like they do them quite well, Manly.
They do, and I know if anyone's in the Manly area, Northern Beaches area, Manly supporters, on the 22nd of February, they're doing a fan day at St. Augustine's School. So might head along to that. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think that's it for this week. Appreciate everyone listening in to not only this episode, but the first 2 episodes that we put out. So appreciate that. Next week, there's no Six Nations.
No.
So we won't be taking up the majority of the time talking about the Six Nations. But what we are going to do is 2 absolute armchair British rugby league fans are going to try and predict the 2025 NRL ladder and see how that goes. But any final thoughts, Chris?
Wouldn't say we're armchair.
No, we're definitely in the crowd giving it large. But no, thanks again for listening. Make sure to follow us along on all socials and we will catch you in the next one.
Thanks very much.